Hi, my name's Kevin Houston, author and founder of Blades Made Simple. And in today's post, what I figured I would do is give you some visibility into Dell's Power Calculator. Their Power Calculator is also known as the Enterprise Infrastructure Planning Tool, or EIPT. And it's real easy to use and a great way to identify the power needs that you may have in your Dell environment. So first, let me share my screen. And I'll show you how to get there. So first thing I like to do is go to dell.com/calc, and it automatically routes you to the EIPT's homepage. Now there's a few things to note about the homepage. First, it is a web or cloud-based design, and it's a quick way to get into the tool, but sometimes you may want to download the local version. So where it says download EIPT, that'll create a local install. And the advantage of doing the local install is that it provides you with the mechanism to save solutions. So if you're creating a design and then you decide you may want to change it later, you can actually export the JSON file and then do an import in the local file. Unfortunately, we don't have that capability yet on the web version. In addition, if you do have some older infrastructure that's end of life, there is an option to download a particular local EIPT for those products as well. But for today, I want to walk you through the web version just to help give you a tour as to what it looks like. So after we click it, takes just a second to load the back end, or more than a second, or more than a second. It's always fun when you're doing demos like this. Okay, this is an important step. As it launches, it's going to ask for you to select the proper voltage. Now, if you're in a data center, 220 is probably going to be ideal. There may be some DC environments, but if you select AC, it's going to really kind of take a look at your configuration and your design, and it may say, hey, you need a special type of power supply, or you may need a higher wattage of power supply, because with 110 voltage, you're not going to get the full usage of power supplies, just basic physics in that aspect. You also have the ability to choose what temperatures you want to look at. And if you'd like to get an idea of what your cost would be, you can change that price per kilowatt per hour. So I'm going to change mine to 220 and 77 degrees, or using Fahrenheit, and I click OK. Now, there's different areas here to bring to your attention, but I want to start with the product catalog, because this is where you're going to be able to pull what systems you're looking at. Now, it defaults to Blades. Hey, that's the right thing, right? Blades Made Simple. But they can be a little bit complex sometimes in design. So I thought I would be a little bit, out of sync here and not do a blade server for this demo. I want to do something that's a little bit simpler just to help you understand. And so I'm going to pick a PowerEdge R750. Now, once I pick that, it's going to drop it over to the side, and then I'll just simply add product. Now, when I add product, it's going to put it into a rack and kind of start to give you some visibility as to what it looks like. But this is the trick, and this is where some people get confused. It's like, how do I move forward from here? Well, you simply just need to click on the server, and then over on the right side, it gives you the details. Here's the default information on the power and workload, etc., for this particular server. The magic here is that you want to click on this gear icon, and it takes you to configure product. Now, there's a few things to note with the configure product screen. First, it automatically sets it up so it provides you with limited configurations. Now, this says limited, but it's really around those most commonly used configurations. If you are really looking to enhance, or maybe you have a complex configuration, you'll want to click on full configuration, and that really unlocks all of the features and details. Now, the other thing to note over here on the right side is that you can choose what types of workloads you're comparing against. It defaults to transactional, but you see we have idle, computational, memory intensive, and maximum power potential, or potential power. And lastly, it rates it at 100%. So it's kind of like doomsday scenario, worst case. If you know, hey, we're really not going to run more than 80% use, then go ahead and select the 80% range. But for most of the calculations where we're preparing or architecting, I like to use the 100%. Now, as you go through here, you simply are building it based upon the proposal or the design that you have in place today. So for example, let's say you have 16 DELMs. There we go. Change that to 16. And then once you're done with a particular area, you can just click done and you'll see that the power calculations change. And you just make edits throughout this. Now, one thing that I did want to show you particularly is when we look at GPUs, and I always forget where they are in this list. I did another training video for our internal teams, and it just completely threw me off. So let me just do a quick GPU enablement, and then let's see if I can find where those suckers are listed. You know, if I'm smart, I'll edit this stuff out. Where are you guys? Okay, so one thing to note at the very top is it already says, look, everything's cool, it's in green. And there we go, GPU FPGA acceleration cards. So let's say I put in 2 cards right here and I click done. Boom, you see what happened there? It said, look, your configuration exceeds the power supply capacity, so you need to upgrade. Now what we see right here is that it's using 1400 watt PSUs. And so if I go and type PSU, it says right here, I'm running in mixed mode. And there's a guide here if you want to walk through specifically what the recommendations are, et cetera. But in this particular case, I'm going to go over here and go, let's bump this up to 2400 watt. And when I do that, you see that the green at the top of the screen says, look, you're good to go. So I'm done with that one. And once I'm done with a particular configuration, I can just simply close it. And then at this stage, there's a few other things you can do. You can take a look at the bill of materials and it'll show you everything that you just selected. And that's kind of helpful before you want to export it. But maybe you want to say, hey, give me a full rack of equipment. Well, quick way to do that is right over here next to the trash can on the R750 or the particular server you're working with, there is a split, and that's really standing for clone. If you hover over it, sometimes it'll show clone, but once you click on it, it says create new clone. Now this is the part that I think is pretty cool. It tells you how many clones you can fit in that given rack. Notice it defaulted to 42U. This particular rack server is a 2U system, so of course I already have one in there. So doing the sheer math, I can only put 20 more. So once I select the quantity that I want to put in, I simply click OK. And then once I do OK, boom, it gives me the whole stack. And you can also see that the power and airflow rate changed based upon. And again, if I click on bill of materials, it'll go through and show me all of this power information as well as each individual server. Now I did a clone. You could have a mix of many different types of systems, blade servers, et cetera, all in one rack. But I just wanted to kind of keep it simple for this aspect. Now at this stage, let's say you're done and you're ready to kind of export it so that you can put it into a document or something to that effect. Well, there's a few things you can do. If you have multiple configurations, notice this says configuration 1. Down here, there's a checkbox. If I click that, it'll add another configuration. If I have multiple configurations, I can go over here and click export all, and then it gives me the option to export to an Excel spreadsheet. The other method I could do is come over here to export to the same thing, a document or a spreadsheet. Let me quickly show you what this looks like. It's pretty much a replica of the bill of materials that I just showed you. But once it's generated, then it'll say, hey, where do you want to throw it at? All right. And then once I do that, then over here in another screen, there it goes, is the spreadsheet. And you'll get an error on the spreadsheet. It's still loading in my other screen. Hold on, let me grab it and drag it over. you'll get an error, but it's basically saying, hey, are you sure you want to open this? It's some nuance that I haven't quite figured out. But bottom line is it gives you the ability to spit the configuration into a spreadsheet. And from there, it's going to give you the same detail. So this is really helpful, especially if you have different configurations and different designs. Now, the last thing I did want to show you, and I mentioned it in the very beginning about using web versus using local, and that is the ability to download the solution. If I click download solution, it's going to take me and say, hey, you want to download this JSON? And when you click download, the screen pops open and it says, hey, where do you want to put it? And that JSON file is basically all of the configuration information, just in a format that this tool will recognize. But as you can see, there's not a way to import that. So that's where the local file comes in. So that's just been a few minutes. I wanted to walk you through and help you understand how you can use the power calculator from Dell. And hopefully you found it useful. I welcome any comments.